In this video, we're going to walk through how to import sponsorship relationship data. And this is basically a link between donors and their recipients. So this is something that you could add here, as you've seen in another video, by just linking the donors and adding them to their recipients. Let's say a donor is called Harper. Yes, linking a donor and to a recipient. And then you create a relationship with a next payment date and all that. However, a sponsorship relationship can also be created when you do an importation, so an import here. So you could just, and this is what we're going to focus on today. Say you have thousands of recipients and maybe donors, multiple relationships, or you even want to import data from the past. That's something that you could do here. So the first piece is use import type sponsorship relationship, then choose the program. In our case, it's child sponsorship. So something that we have here is that we have some values that will be required of you. So frequency, this is how often the sponsorship will be happening. So, we have monthly option, bi-weekly, every 3 months, quarterly. We have 6 months, every 6 months, and yearly. So these are the options that we offer today. And then we also have a payment method that's required for you to add. So whether it's credit card or bank transfer, cash, check, wire transfer, PayPal, or an external processor. These are the different payment methods you could use. I will show you a sample of what the sponsorship table should look like. So this is available to you, and basically what you have to do is to ensure that you edit your data to appear in this format for it to be imported correctly. So the first table we see right here, this is the donor ID table. The first column, this is the donor ID column. This is where you will have the unique field that will help you to map sponsorship to a particular donor. And then the next column is an entity ID. So why we have entity ID is that sometimes the recipient for this sponsorship can either be a student, a person, but sometimes it could also be a campaign. So whichever it is, you would just add the entity right here. And the next piece that you have to add is the amount. So for example, if it's like, $50 or they, sometimes some sponsorships are custom. Let's say someone was sponsoring maybe $30 previously, and now the new sponsorships have changed to the default sponsorships have changed to 50. You could also have just a custom amount, and that can be added right there during the import. So the next column we have here is the date. So basically what this is for is the next action date. This is when the sponsorship is expected to run next. So if it's a date in the past, what will happen is that once that import is done, it will be marked as due. The sponsorship will be marked as due, and that means that whenever the cron is running next, it will try to make a charge. So if you want your donors to be charged on a specific date, say for example, you're moving from another platform and they were charged maybe on the 5th of every month. So you would put 5th, for right now I'm in April, you would put the 5th of May to be the next charge date. So I guess let's try that. the 5th of May. So yeah, this is something that you could do, and you would say you would add the frequency. So for the next column, frequency, like I mentioned earlier, these are the values that you would be using. You just pick any of these. And then for the payment method, you also have all the methods available right there. You choose whichever one you want. And finally, the last column of inactive or active. So if you don't import this column, by default, your sponsorships will be marked as active. However, in case you import this column and you mark some sponsorships as inactive, then they will be in that state. So let's say you want to import history of some sponsorships that used to happen but are not happening anymore. Yeah, if you don't have history of any sponsorships that used to happen, so this is something that you could use to do an import. So yes, we have that right there. Then the next piece we're going to talk about is to look at an actual sponsorship relationship table. So I will close this. So yeah, this is the sponsorship table right here. And I want to mention that the sponsorship table is comprised of these donor IDs that we had already imported, together with the entity IDs that we had already imported. So these are the recipients, the children that are being sponsored. And then these are the donors who are sponsoring. So we'll take a look at a few examples. So we have this donor, Megan Smith, right here. Their donor ID is added here to the sponsorship table. And then we have an entity ID. So when you have these two linked together like this, with date, I will change the date to the one we had. However, the format I guess we're using is yeah, 05 2026. Yeah. You have the date. This means that this is when they will next be charged. I will switch that up for some of the donors as well so that we can see that to a date in the future. And then we have the frequency added here, the payment type, as well as whether the sponsorship is active or inactive. The next piece that we're going to look at is a situation where one donor is sponsoring multiple students. So in this case, this donor, Harper, is sponsoring 6, 8, 2, all through 8, 6. So we have 8, 2 sponsoring Maria, Ying, and Carlos. So this is something that's also very possible, where you can have a mapping of a donor having multiple sponsorships. So if you're able to import the different relationships you have, so if you have a one donor to many recipients, you're able to import that, and vice versa. If you have one recipient being sponsored by multiple donors, that's also something that you would be able to do. All you would have to do is to map which recipient is receiving from which donor or donors. Likewise, which donor is sponsoring which recipient or which recipients. So we have this table fully populated, and now we're going to do an import. So let me first save this file. All right, so During the import, we're going to import this file. Let me first close it. So we're going to import sponsorship data. And then we're going to do a mapping, just like we did for recipient data as well as donor data. And something I needed to mention is that at this point, you need to have both your recipient and donor data already imported into the system. So I'm going to use my recipient ID custom column, custom field. This is a system field in my recipient forms where that contains unique recipient IDs, and I'm going to map it to the entity ID. So this is the entity ID for the sponsorship right here. So next I'm going to map the donor. So I'm going to map the donor ID. If I have a custom field containing donor data, just like here, I have a custom field for recipient ID custom data, then I would just, use that. And likewise, if I didn't have any custom ID for recipient data, Help You Sponsor helps you to create unique recipient IDs as well as donor IDs. So you would just use entity ID right there and map it to the entity ID that's in the CSV. So in this case, I'm going to map the donor ID system field that I have created for me with the donor ID field that I have here. So the next pieces are mapped for me. So the amount, the date, the frequency, the payment method. And then we're also going to have, yeah, they're all mapped correctly. And then we are also going to have this other piece. So in case you want to update active or inactive, it's something that, you could do as well. So inactive is the one I'll map. Yeah, and everything looks great there. So next, we're going to do the import. So first, the data is being validated to see if we have any errors. In case there are none, we'll do the import. All right, so it looks like we have 34 valid rows, but 6 errors. So what it's saying here is that I see my date formats for these rows are not great. All right, I'll take a look at that. So my sponsorship data. Yeah, I guess all these rows need to be in this format. So I will change that. All right, so I'm going to try this and see if it works. I'll go and export. And then I'll close this. So I'll go back and do the import. So it's great to see that in action, that in case you have some data that's not mapped correctly, it will be flagged for you. All right, so donor ID to donor ID. These are great. I'll map inactive. And yes, finally, we have all the rows imported. So with this, we do have the records showing up, the sponsorship records, and that's amazing. So our import was successful. All the relationships have been created. Something you'll notice is the status. So wherever we have due, that means that the date for the sponsorship, the next date for the sponsorship, this one was a date in the past. And wherever you see that it's current, it's a date in the future. So that's something to be aware of, that whenever you're doing an import, it's good to put the date when you would want the sponsorship for the donor, that particular sponsorship to be charged. So I hope this was helpful. I think one more thing, let's go to the donor records and let's look for this donor called Harper. I believe Harper had about 6 sponsorships. Yeah, we do see some of this, and we see all this. So that's great. We now have, all the sponsorships set up with their amounts and payment methods. I hope this was helpful. See you in the next video.